Hi everyone, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Live with Cullen Haynes, LawLive, episode 65, with a man who is in the business that everyone's dying to get in, pun intended, of course. We're going to be talking about where there's a will, there's a lawyer. And Ian MacLeod is no stranger to this, director at RP Emery, and has been doing what he's been doing in legal will kits for the last 15 years. But I just wanted to make mention, thank you so much for tuning in. This is a live episode. So feel free to put your comments in LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X as well. And we'll be sure to get them during the stream. We'll upload it to where you consume your podcast. This proudly brought to you by Legal Home Loans, the only mortgage broking service for lawyers in Australia. And of course, my new book, the #1 bestseller on Amazon, The Laws of LinkedIn, 23 laws to attract your ideal clients, build your loyal following, and scale your income to 7 figures. So without further ado, please make very welcome my dear guest, Ian MacLeod. It's great to have you on the show, Ian.
Hello, Cullen. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this episode for some time, and you get that all the time. You probably make a killing in your business, right?
No, not quite. Not quite. Yeah, will kits are just one part of what we do, though. You know, our business, we provide kits for all sorts of business issues, whether it be a commercial lease or a residential tenancy or a partnership agreement, numerous other documents apart from just will kits.
No, well, I want to delve into that. And what got you into it? Like, how did you find yourself in the role of where you find yourself in the last 15 years? Delving into
there's a story behind that. I don't even know if I want to go there. It might not inspire too much confidence. But back in 2006, we were looking for a business to purchase, and we just happened to purchase some intellectual property from a chap who had started RP Emery Associates in the early 90s. And,
okay.
You know, we had a lot of learning to do about the documents we provide, and we spent a lot of money on lawyers and having those documents reviewed and instructions put together. So it's been a bit of a learning curve, all right? But, you know, we've been doing it quite successfully now for almost 20 years, I suppose.
Well, I'd love to delve into that as well. It sounds like you're making a big impact, but obviously my network, I've got about 23 or now 24,000 connections, a lot of them lawyers. Some of them may be watching, hang on, you know, where there's a will, there's always a lawyer. Is Ian trying to take my business and our kits replacing lawyers? I'd love to know. Let's talk about the elephant in the room in terms of legal kits and BFAs.
Well, like I said, legal kits are just a tiny amount of what we do. But the vast majority of the documents and the services we provide are for people who are either coming into a new relationship or exiting from a long-term relationship. And so we do that. Yeah, so we help people through that process with binding financial agreements and the legal advice. Although I don't provide the legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. Okay, I'm not a lawyer.
Making that very clear. Neither am I, even though people think I am.
No. And I don't provide legal advice, but I have lawyers that I work with who do. And so I suppose I answer most of the common questions that people have, not necessarily information that is pertinent to their particular situation, but information that is going to be helpful to them in putting together a compliant binding financial agreement.
What is it about a BFA that people should know? What is it? How does it work? Like, give us a little bit of a...
Okay. Right. So you can make a BFA either before, during, or after a relationship has ended. And it essentially sets out how your property, your assets and liabilities should be distributed. So if you probably should deal with these two sections separately, because otherwise, we've got documents that will help you during an ongoing relationship. Now, that might be a de facto relationship where you've come together and you're planning to spend the rest of your life together, or it might be a separation agreement. So if we just concentrate on one issue at a time, it'll be easier to explain rather than jumping backwards and forwards. All right. So if you take a separation, for instance.
Yes.
We've all heard the stories about how people have had negative experiences with lawyers during separations. My personal belief is not necessarily the lawyers that are the problem. The problem is that people try to negotiate through their lawyer rather than trying to negotiate with each other. Right?
I see.
Because when you have conflict between two parties, if you're trying to communicate a message to your partner,
yes,
through a lawyer, all right, then maybe that message doesn't come through as clear and in the way that you want it delivered. Right? So I recommend that if you have communication issues, find somebody who can help you with those communication issues rather than trying to fight it out through two combative lawyers.
Do you think there's a real problem at the moment with that kind of occurrence happening, Ian?
Oh, well, I hear it all the time. So I suppose it's an issue. But if people would leave the lawyering to the lawyers and the counselling to the counsellors, I think they'd be much more successful. In any case, the service we provide is we encourage people to keep the lines of communication open, right? And if they can come to a fair and equitable arrangement themselves, we can show you how to put that arrangement in place for an absolute minimum of cost, rather than the tens of thousands of dollars that are reported for most matters.
Makes sense. And why did you particularly see the need for things to change in the industry when you came on board almost 15, 20 years ago, Ian?
Well, it was more a case of people, our customers were asking for these documents, and we were providing a document, for a prenuptial type agreement. Still yes. A binding financial agreement, but it's a binding financial agreement made before a marriage, or they were downloading separation agreements, which
yes.
once again still binding. But a binding financial agreement has no binding effect unless you get legal advice before you sign it. So you must receive, both parties must receive legal advice. And because they were downloading the documents, we wanted to provide the other component that would help people finalise that document as efficiently as possible. And so we formed relationships with lawyers, and I've got 5 lawyers that I work with. The last lady to come on started with me in 2015. So all of these lawyers I've got really good long-term relationships with. They do a great job.
And what's important for people to get that independent legal advice, do you think, Ian, when creating a BFA or a binding financial agreement?
Well, firstly, if they don't get the legal advice, the agreement is worthless. It has no binding effect. So if you wanted to, most people want to divide their finances and move on with their life, free, knowing that the other party's not going to come back and have another bite of the cherry. That there's not going to be any potential for court matters down the track. So unless you get that legal advice before you sign the agreement, that agreement's worthless. That's set out in the Family Law Act.
Can it be challenged or overturned, a BFA or a binding financial agreement?
Yeah, they can be challenged. The secret is to try and eliminate the potential for those challenges, right? There are a number of issues that a court would need to find, right? Or there are a number of issues, either of which the court would need to find in order to set an agreement aside. Most of them relate to honesty and dealing fairly with your partner. Like, number one, you can't have any coercion or duress. Like any contract, if there's any coercion or duress in that contract, you don't have a genuine meeting of the minds. And so if a court can find that there was duress, for instance, in making, when the parties made the agreement, then the court could set that agreement aside, particularly in relation to assets and liabilities. If you have an agreement that says, let's say, for argument's sake, that the parties decide, we're going to split everything 50-50, right? And so you're required to disclose all of your assets and liabilities to the other, so you can identify what that property pool is. But if somebody says, well, I don't want to tell her that Uncle Harry just died and left me $2 million, we'll just keep that to myself, right? Well, that's hardly a 50-50 split if you keep half of the pool out of the negotiation. And so if you've got somebody who hides an asset or hides income or a trust or a company or whatever the case may be, right? If you hide something from your partner where the disclosure of that thing, whatever it is, would have an impact on somebody's decision to enter the agreement, then that's all the court needs to set the agreement aside. So if you were thinking, look, I want to keep this particular thing out of the agreement and I don't want to tell her about it, well, that's a red flag that you really should, because if it comes unstuck, if you get caught out, the court will be really harsh on you.
No, very, very interesting. So banks often prefer court orders, I believe, before releasing funds to one person. Is that true?
Banks prefer either a court order or a binding financial agreement. The problem is that many mortgage brokers or other people in the industry think that court orders are the only thing that will satisfy the banks. But banks will also be satisfied by a properly executed binding financial agreement.
Very interesting. And where do you see the future of this particular subset of the law in 10 years there, Ian?
I don't have a crystal ball.
No, none of us do.
Sorry, Cullen. I'd like to help you with an answer there, but I don't know. They could change the Family Law Act next week, and we'll all be out of a job. Who knows?
No, makes sense. Yeah, I thought I'd just throw it out there. But keeping it light and fun, what's the most unusual client request you've ever received in your long and luminous career?
I suppose you're looking for humour here. It's a very dry subject.
It's a very grave affair.
Oh, geez, I wish I'd read that question earlier. I would have been able to give it some thought. I don't know. There's one matter that comes to mind, but it's not necessarily humorous, where a chap was essentially wanting to give all of his worldly wealth to his ex-wife, like everything, right? So he was left penniless, right? But none of the lawyers that I work with would have anything to do with it. It was sort of smelt of, somebody's being blackmailed here. there was something very odd about somebody saying, well, she can have everything and I'm going to pay her half of my wage until I die.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, there's something afoul there for sure in the state of Denmark.
Yeah, there's something rotten in Denmark. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, you know, if you look at it, what would you like to see change in the law, or I guess this part of the wills journey that you work with, ideally? Wave your magic wand there, Ian, for people.
You keep bringing up wills. I don't have to do much with wills. We really don't.
That's all right.
It's such a tiny part of what we do. Wills are...
well, what would you like to see change in general with the work that you do?
I suppose I'd like to see little pockets of the law where you could study a particular aspect of the law, just as time, much the same as you can do as a conveyancer does conveyancing. You can pick up one particular aspect, one very small, tiny piece of the law, and then you could provide advice in relation to that. Because I have, I've been doing this for a long time. I know how the lawyers work, and I know what the customers need. But I'm a bit hamstrung because I'm not a lawyer.
That's okay. That's okay. But if you could give lessons to young professionals or those starting their journey together and whatnot, and they're about to maybe think of entering one of these BFAs or one of the services you offer, what would you like to tell young professionals starting their journey in life?
Well, if you start the relationship together and you've both got nothing, all right?
Yes.
I'd say just go on and enjoy life. Like, who needs a BFA? Love each other and have a great life together.
Absolutely.
But if you've got a couple where they may be a little bit further down the track, and most of our customers are a little bit further down the track. They may be on their first or their second or third relationship, and they've been burnt by one, and then it's, well, I don't want to go through that again because it was traumatic. No. So for a couple where one party might have something they've worked really hard for and they want to protect it, then I would say consider a binding financial agreement. All right? And I really don't want to push anybody into doing this sort of thing. It's really a personal decision. It's not something that they shouldn't make that decision because I recommend it, right? But they might want to consider some statistics. So if you look at first-time marriages,
yes,
first-time marriages have a 40% chance of failure in the first 10 years.
Really? I did not know that.
That's it's a pretty alarming statistic, right? And subsequent relationships have a higher failure rate again. So I imagine, do you own a house, Cullen?
We do, yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right. And so you insure that house because it's probably your major asset, all right? If you knew that you had a 40% chance that your house was going to burn down in the first 10 years of owning it, would you insure it?
Of course. That's a pretty high chance.
Yeah, all right. So the actual statistic is something like 1 in 10,000, right? You've got a 1 in 10,000 chance of your house burning down. So if you apply that logic to a relationship where hello,
he's learning the lessons early.
Yeah, good on you. So if you had a 40% chance that your relationship was going to fail, then you'd want to ensure that.
Of course.
Then put a binding financial agreement in place.
It's fascinating, Ian. And I've got some bonus questions for you, but I want to finish on this one. When all is said and done in your world, how would you like to be remembered one day?
I don't know. as somebody who actually cared.
I think you do that in leaps and bounds, given the work that you do, Ian. I think it's a touchy subject, you know, separation, binding financial agreements, all these things, but, you know, someone has to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And where can people find you, Ian? Where are you hanging out the most?
At home in Murwillumbah, northern New South Wales. All right, but you can find me at rpemery.com.au. If you have questions around how to put an agreement in place, I can guide you through that process.
Fantastic.
Right.
You are the master.
And do it extremely deeply.
Okay. Well, we've got your notes and details in the show notes, so please get in touch with Ian, and we'll bring you back for some bonus questions, Ian.
Yeah, okay. Thanks
so much. And if you're a legend of loan who knows someone who is, and you'd like to be on the Live with Cullen, Haynes and Benji show, please drop me a note. I'm usually on LinkedIn. We come out most Wednesdays, and we'll be putting this episode up eventually to the podcast. I think we're at episode 49 now. We recently put up Harry Cormack, legendary 40-year partner at HWL, talking about his Spice Girls principle. If you don't know what the Spice Girls principle is, it's quite funny. It's tell me what you want, what you really, really want. So definitely get on that. And if you haven't already, we'd be honored if you got The Laws of LinkedIn. It's now number one on Amazon. How to get 23 laws to attract your ideal clients, build your loyal following, and scale your income to 7 figures on LinkedIn. Really appreciate the support, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining the stream. Thank you for re-listening and re-watching. Bye for now. Take care. Bring you back in. We've got some bonus questions for you, sir. How would you explain your role to a 2-year-old child, very basically?
I'm the guy who takes you by the hand and leads you through the mire, which is trying to put one of these agreements in place and have.
Yes. I like it. I like it.
Ensure it protects you. Yeah.
Very good. And how would your pets describe you?
My pets. I don't know. Well, we did have a really lovely poodle not so long ago, but we haven't got her anymore. But how would she describe me? I don't know. She was so aloof. She hardly talked to me at all.
And the last question before we depart for today, Ian, if you could give yourself advice at any age, what age would you give yourself that advice, and what would the specific advice be?
Never doubt yourself. Right. So if I was talking to 21-year-old Ian, I'd say never doubt yourself. All right. Have confidence.
That's advice for the ages. Never doubt yourself, Benji. How about that?
Have confidence and follow your dreams and your instincts. Listen to your gut.
That's fantastic advice indeed. Time for the ages. Really appreciate your time today, Ian, and joining us from RP Emery and telling us all the wonderful things you get up to and how you can add value to people out there. Be sure to follow this great man, Ian, and thank you for tuning in today, Wednesday, the 26th of Feb, everyone. All the best, everyone. Take care. Happy Wednesday.
Thanks, Cullen.
My pleasure, Ian. Thank you so much again.